A lot has gone on since the club was announced all the way back in May. It's 2.5 months away from what we think is going to be the curtain raiser.
The club have come out and said they've sold 3,000 season tickets already. I would be very surprised if another team in the league has sold as many season tickets as Wanderers so far.
I've always wanted to own a professional sports team. Now that I've been in this business and been living in Halifax for the last 12 years, I really saw that soccer was the right opportunity at the right time. We're on the cusp of giving birth to a new club that will hopefully become part of the community fabric in Halifax for 100 years. The story of how this all came to be is talking to Paul Byrne, who I had met years ago when he was the first employee of Toronto FC. He told me that he had just been hired by this, new league that was going to be created in Canada called the CPL. Immediately when he explained the concept of this national league, what was happening in terms of the growth of soccer, it all really came together in a way that I saw that this could really work.
So Derek Martin came to see us and said, look, we think that there's potential for the Wanderers grounds, and here is an ideal venue that the CPL is starting. It's going to be a really cool coast-to-coast soccer league, and we want to be part of it right in the heart of the city. Well, the history of the Wanderers grounds is pretty significant within the city of Halifax. It has been for over a century known as a place of athletics, rugby, even cricket, a number of different sports. So it was a central gathering place for this community going back into the late 1800s.
In my opinion, it's the only place to play. So to be able to combine this iconic grass pitch in the center of the city and having access to all of the great things that people think about Halifax.
It's a great venue. We had to reinvent the field. It's one thing to look nice, but it has to be playable. So as a city, we invested in that field to make sure that the pitch was strong enough to withstand serious competition. And of course, we had to look at where people are going to sit and how you're going to make this financially viable, all of which have been done pretty quickly overall.
We've only been here for 2 weeks. We started with 16 sea cans that you see behind you, all stacked and welded together, and with a good crew of 46 all together, we're trying to get this done in time for game day. The harbor port city reflected here, the lumber is milled in Bridgewater. All the talent and labor here is local. It's a real homegrown project.
This was not something that you could just say, okay, we have this space, it automatically has to go there. We had to make sure that it fit within the whole context of the city of Halifax. But I think overall, people love it. And I think as this team gets going, there's going to be a lot of Wanderers fans. There's going to be a lot of people who are very excited that they get the opportunity to see this right in the heart of Halifax.
I used to live in Edmonton, Alberta, and I was a fan of the FC Edmonton team, and I've always wondered how amazing it would be here to have a professional team in this city. There was rumors going around in about 2013-14 that there was a professional soccer league starting in Canada. So I thought I'd do a good thing and I would register a bunch of Twitter accounts, email addresses, things like that, so that if there were a team that they could have the name they wanted. So that was September of 2016, and only a few months later, I read an article that Derek Martin and Sports and Entertainment Atlantic were seeking a team in Halifax, and not only were they seeking a team in Halifax, but they wanted to put a stadium on the Wanderers ground. And when I read that in the article, I was, oh my God, I got it right on the first shot.
We tried a few other names and we played around with a few different concepts, but at the end of the day, it kind of fell to me, and in the last moments of trying to make a final decision, I just felt like it had to be the Wanderers. This tie into the history that the Wanderers Amateur Athletic Club had in Halifax and our ability to tap into that history while also introducing something new for a new generation of Haligonians, I just thought was too perfect to pass up. So I think it's a name and a mark that people have really responded to. It's really quickly become a part of the fabric of the city.
I'm not surprised at all that the community's really gotten behind this. There's a lot of civic pride here, and I think sports are the #1 way to express civic pride. The Halifax Wanderers, they're not just a soccer team, they're the Halifax Wanderers. When you're cheering for the crest here, it's a lot more than just a logo. It's every person who lives in the city you're cheering for.
I do believe it is a new time in Halifax. I've called it the second golden age, but then I'm a mayor, I do things like that. Although we're a hockey country, there are a huge number of people who play soccer. So I think that the city is excited. Soccer embodies the new Halifax, people who are coming here from around the world and staying and finding a future in Halifax, as well as those who've been here for a long time. They want to be part of something like this. We've heard from people that are just so keen to see this sport played in Halifax at a high level.
I started it in, I think it was November or December last year, simply because I wanted to read stuff about Halifax Wanderers and there was nothing being written about it, so I thought I might as well do it myself. And then we talked about a podcast. We knew enough about the club and the sport to kind of do it justice. It's born out of a love for the game. Any excuse to talk about it or write about it.
Probably partway through January we did the first episode, and it was tough for a little while to actually find things to talk about.
It's a podcast about a club playing a sport, yet that club has never actually played that sport. Until Sunday anyway, so it's not the easiest thing to do, but we got through it, didn't we?
We'll find out on Sunday if we got through it, I think. Yeah.
Right away, I knew that I wasn't a soccer expert, so I had to try to find the best person I possibly could to head up the soccer operations side of the business. That was really kind of mission critical in terms of building this team from scratch and having somebody that had not only the respect of players to be able to go out and recruit them, but also the respect of the soccer community here in Halifax. Stephen checked all the boxes in terms of being well respected, having coached at incredibly high levels. He really brought a wealth of experience to the role, and really most importantly, he's a great guy and a great individual. And you know, when you're working with someone so closely to launch something like this, it really helps when you respect each other and you get along.
It's one of those things you sit down and you ask yourself exactly how you'd like your team to play. And then you go about trying to find players that play in a certain manner. The real difficulty was securing the Canadian players because one, you had to convince them to come back to Canada. Two, you had to convince them to come to Halifax. The foreign players, there were pieces that I would have liked to select, mainly along the spine of the team. So that was a little bit easier.
When the CPL had just been announced, and they announced Halifax was going to be a team, and I said to a couple of my friends, I was like, Halifax would be a really cool place to play, you know, right on the water. It's a small city. But then when they announced Stephen Hart as coach, that was even more interesting. Once I started getting in touch with Stephen, I wanted that to work out.
Well, I started playing soccer when I was 3. When I finished high school in Germany, I was at a point in my career where I didn't really know what to do because my parents wanted me to pursue education. At the same point, I wanted to play soccer, and then I got the offer from Cape Breton, and it just was a good match. It was only about a year ago maybe I found out that the CPL was going to launch, and then heading into the draft and end up coming here and signing. It was super exciting.
Oh, it's amazing. You know, I grew up here all my life, and to be able to have this opportunity to play for the first local team, it's an unreal experience, and it's really hard to put into words how much it means to me, and I know it means so much to the city. Be able to have that here where kids grow up and they have a team that's in their backyard that they're able to support, and now the kids are able to dream of playing for their local team. And to be one of the first Halifax people to do that, I wear that with responsibility and I'm welcoming it.
It's such a weird, rare thing to have a league that hasn't existed before and have players that have never played against each other or with each other in any fashion. So I think everybody's going to it completely blind.
It's an exciting time to be waiting with anticipation for that first game and to see how the boys will come together. And everything's on the line, and they're likely going into an environment in Pacific, with it being their home opener, that it'll be a full and loud crowd, and excited to see how they perform under those conditions.
You don't know how the team will respond. It's the first time you're going to see the team in competition. It's a difficult opening game in the sense that you have a lot to deal with right off the bat in terms of travel, change of time zones, all of that. But that's the nature of playing in a country the size of Canada. But I don't really know what the team is going to look like. I could see them in training, but as people in the military will tell you, when the bullets really start to fly is when you know how well the training's gone.
I think if we play our game, if we're good, if we're confident, we have a good chance going there and taking 3 points home. I mean, you always need a little bit of luck, but if we get that on Sunday, I think it will be good for us.
Obviously, we're hopeful and we're excited, but also a little bit of anxiety just to see how this team looks on paper translates into how they play when they get on the pitch.
top it goes again, and Marcus Haber on the chase, taking on inside. Into the penalty area he goes. Kept his run going. Did he get the corner out of it? He did. That's a decent-looking ball. The header came through, and the first Pacific FC goal has been scored by the skipper. 1-0 Pacific, and now can the Wanderers respond?
And Pacific FC have won their inaugural game in the Canadian Premier League. What a moment. Pacific 1 and Wanderers 0.